of that. We know our church is in trouble. How do we stand financially? I don't know. Every place is different, you know. Some dioceses are bankrupt. I know that's how they stand. You know, they had a succession of lawsuits and had to settle them and so forth, had to declare bankruptcy. Some are in terrible shape. I'll tell you this. Usually, St. Thomas Aquinas, who was a brilliant mind, he said frequently, an error in the beginning is an error indeed. And what he meant by that, if you make an error in the beginning, you make an error in judgment, you make an error in principle, boy, that will come back to haunt you. Now, in places where complaints were ignored for years, there are places, I'll tell you, when I was in the seminary, I went to a good seminary, and we were lucky, but I had heard horror stories from some of the other seminarians who transferred from other seminaries where they had homosexual activity going on in the seminary. And they complained. I have a friend who was a Wall Street lawyer. He went to the seminary, I won't mention where, but he went and he saw activity like this. And he became very upset about it, and he went to the rector of the seminary and he complained bitterly. End of the semester, he got a letter saying he was not invited back for the next semester. He was a straight-A student. And the reason given was he is lacking in social graces. And you wonder how we got in trouble? That's how we got in trouble. You wonder how they end up bankrupt? Quite often that's how they end up bankrupt. Stupidity. Should have taken action and didn't. Now sometimes it's not like that. And they did what they could, but you know, you can't control absolutely what another human being does. But if you get a succession of complaints about somebody, that, you know, you got to look into it. You have to. All right? So the state of the church, in general, it's still okay. You know, the church isn't broke. But some locations are. Some dioceses are, yes. You know, they're in trouble. An error in the beginning is an error indeed. Generally speaking, do things right, and it'll work out. Like with vocations. There's a lot of questions on vocation. You know, one said, one of the questions was, we have a vocations crisis, but is it really a crisis? You know, and they mentioned Mother Angelica and the nuns, you know, in her Franciscan community. I mean, she built a big monastery, figuring, well, that'll take care of the vocations for years to come. No, in a year they were full. And the question, why don't they get a clue that if you do things right, you get vocations? If you do things wrong, you don't. That's all. When the community is faithful, and Mother Angelica's community is faithful, those nuns are real nuns. I mean, they are doing what they're supposed to do. When you're faithful, God blesses the fidelity. If you are unfaithful, you know, and I don't like it. It doesn't give me any pleasure to say anything negative about anyone, about any religious order, and I don't mention names. I don't attack people or religious orders. I just don't do that. But I'll tell you, a lot of them have lost their mind. Why would a woman want to join a religious community, or man, when they don't have no recognizable features of being a religious? I remember when I was discerning my vocation, I went to a number of religious orders, and I got stuff like that. They were like college recruiters, and they were on the defensive. Well, now if you join us, it's going to be good. See, you don't have to wear no religious habit no more. We go to the beach and we go to the movies. And I remember thinking, man, why don't I just stay in the world if I want to live like that? Why would I join you? Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You know, but they're afraid, they're defensive, you know, that they're going to turn them off if they're not, you know, can't have a normal life and so forth. They even would take people in some religious orders and encourage them to date. Oh yeah, Encourage them to date. Now, well, we want you to date and make sure that while they're in the religious order, while they're novices. Goofy.